For the next couple of lectures, you'll be watching my interview with A-list Hollywood director of photography, Shane Hurlbut. You can check out his extensive credits list on IMDb. It's an incredible, insightful journey, and I'm delighted to share this with you. So grab some popcorn, take some notes, and prepare to be inspired. What I'd love to do now is to take a little trajectory from this domestic drama into perhaps something with a little bit more of a sci-fi edge to it. Now, my students are going to be very happy to hear your thoughts on making a blockbuster such as Terminator Salvation. Now, the clips that you've sent through are absolutely astounding, and I feel that it'd be crazy for me to not ask about the feeling for you as an aspiring filmmaker to be on set. What did it feel like for you when you're there and you're working on a movie with a $200 million budget? Was that scary or was that exciting for you, or a little bit of both?
This was, in the beginning, it didn't start off as a super big budget. I did this whole film in 72 days. And, you look at a budget like $200 million and they have 127, they have 98, they have 105. We did it in 72. So, Mick G really leaned on me to be able to be very fast and still get the performances and the epic action that's in this film.
I'm not sure I understand.
Sir, you never understand. And, so that was a big part of it all. So it didn't scare me in the beginning because it wasn't so huge. But then as it grew and got bigger and bigger and bigger, because it happened on the movie, I really didn't get scared of it. But what I did do is, this was my baby. This was my coming out party as a blockbuster DP, right? And I wanted to put my stamp on every single frame. So the first 42 days of the movie, I did straight. So I didn't have a day off. So on the weekends, I would go and shoot second unit, and then I would come back and continue to shoot main unit on the week. And I did that for, I don't know, six or 7 weeks, right? To be able to have that amount of, and it was kind of me. Now I delegate, right? It's a big thing for a director of photography to understand that you're hiring amazing people to deliver the vision. And if you fill them with the right lookbooks and right references and hire the right technicians, you got to just let them do their job. But this was, my baby in the beginning, and I had invested so much time, 25 weeks of prep on this film, and then 72 days to shoot it. So I was very viscerally involved in every frame of it.
There's a couple of interesting things I'd love to keep talking to you for. I think we could probably end up chatting for a solid 12 hours just about that alone. Firstly, I think it's incredible that you understood that this was a great opportunity to take it to the next level of being a blockbuster DOP, and then to realize, okay, I need to work hard. And it goes back to what we said right at the very beginning. This isn't something that just happens. Nobody's going to just give it to you on a silver platter. Even at that level, when you suddenly have hundreds of millions of dollars at your disposal, it still comes down to working hard. And I think that's a really key lesson. And the other thing that you touched on briefly there was as you gradually learnt to delegate, you mentioned this idea of hiring good people. And it's one of the things that you and I talked about a little while ago, which is that there's not just about cinematographers, but about filmmaking in general. There's a sort of common misconception that directors, they have some magic words that they say to some actors to get some amazing performance, maybe saying, oh, we're going to talk about that time when you lost a teddy bear as a kid. But really, it's just about hiring good people. And whether it comes from being a director of photography, working with a really great Steadicam operator who you can just trust, or a focus puller who you know is always going to get it sharp. I think that you're really onto one of the core aspects of collaboration, which is that you just got to give people that trust, and then they'll rise to the occasion, because they'll really respond to that feeling when someone in a high position says, I trust you, I know that you can do this, and it elevates them to do the best job that they possibly can.
It's absolutely right. And once I saw how well the DP on second unit was doing, and also the director, because we were both doing something that was very unique. Mick G had given this to the VFX coordinator. So that he gave the second unit to, right, as the director. So this was a big opportunity for this person. And the DP that he hired was somebody that had worked with him on Pirates of the Caribbean. So that was his kind of claim to fame, is the second unit from Pirates. And he was all the VFX supervisor as well on Pirates. So Mick G said, I really want to give you a shot. You become the second unit director, and you can hire whoever you want as your DP. I interviewed him. Patrick Loungeway was his name, and he's awesome. But I just wanted to make sure that he was exposing the film like I expose. And I expose film a lot differently than other director photographies. And I just wanted to make sure he saw that process, how much I overexposed, how much I brought back, what that feel of the Terminator landscape was, how to lens it. And once I saw that he was in the pocket, they were off and running. But that's one thing that it took me a while to really learn. And I when I work with younger DPs, they're very much like I was when I was younger. I wanted to be on an island. It's like, I got to do it all, and I got to, have a piece of every frame in the movie. And, that's exhausting, and it will, tear you apart, because it's unsustainable. Right? So delegating is a big deal and a huge skill set for director of photographies, for truly anyone in the business. Delegating, be able to trust your team, be able to know that they're going to go out there and get exactly what you storyboarded with the exact exposure that you were hoping for. All these things are super important as a director of photography.
Okay, I think it's a fantastic lesson, and one of the things that I like to encourage my students to do is just to work with different people, try out different combinations, because ultimately, filmmaking is a collaborative art form. Film is really hard to do, whether you're shooting something on your phone, you're making a promo video for a local charity, or you're making a blockbuster. It's something that requires being able to talk to people, communicating your ideas, and sometimes just finding the middle ground. So what I'd really love to do, Shane, is if we can have a little look at one of the clips from Terminator.
Yeah, which one would you like?
I really love the one where we have Christian Bale on the helicopter.
All right, here we go. Okay, setting the stage. This is obviously a resistance bomb that's coming in and trying to blow up the Skynet facility, and we are the bomb.
Vanguard, this is Blackjack 6. Missile inbound to Skynet target. TTO, 11 seconds. Danger close.
deems the information on those computers to be of the highest priority.
Amazing. If you're happy to talk us through the just some of the practical realities of that, of combining live action with CG and green screen.
Okay, right here, you feel completely immersed in this scenario, and the camera hardly moves. Okay? And this is the art form of, again, taking something that this is all CG. So all those satellite dishes are all CG. All that's real is the ground. And then I'm going to toss a Terminator into it. Okay, so now he's in the foreground. So immediately we know what we're doing. We just bombed the base, and now there's a Terminator. So this is on a techno crane, and it's just resting there. But watch how immersive you feel because of the use of foreground, midground, and background. So now I got an A-50, whatever, that tank killer plane comes in. This is all CG. So we had to envision the operating on this, because obviously I'm not having somebody walk the line of the Warthog. You know, I'm not having somebody bring a tennis ball through so I can follow them. And that was the one thing that I felt made Terminator so unique, even now, compared to the Marvel movies that we're shooting now in action. Because this doesn't feel like a CG set extension. And the reason being is I am smoking the shit out of it. I am blowing dirt in the air. I'm blowing cork. I'm throwing shit everywhere. So the debris in the foreground is convincing you that all that stuff in the background is real, right? And this is where, as a director of photography, when you're shooting in these blue worlds and green worlds and all that stuff, we never did any of that. We did not want that style of movie making. Everything was done that was just the sky out there. They planted those satellite dishes in. Here comes the Warthog. Look at us follow them, right? And again, we're using this action where we're coming in with stuff, boom, in close to the lens and then tilting back up. And then we tilt up, we see this Terminator device here that's shooting down the planes. So he shoots down the plane. Now we follow that plane. So now we swooped up, we panned across, we saw other Terminators, we went across, he crashes, and then on the crash, now these helicopters are coming at us. And we're just panning so we were like here, now we've just panned over to here. But it looks like you're coming into a whole different environment. And now these guys come off of this helicopter, the Hughes, and then they drag us right to Christian Bale. And Mick G specifically wanted to see those red eyes in the Terminator, and watch when he puts the bullet in his head. They die, right? So it's like, boom, John Connor is on the ground, right? And this, again, is all, set extensions. So again, boom, this is all practical. I had an effects team that was incredible. They had these cement bombs left and right. I had them add all the spark in there. So we got bokeh during the day, instead of just a gas explosion. I wanted this to be mortar rounds, which are much more sparks and cement, gray, dust, and dirt. And look at it, there's fire. So I had to make like 60 or 80 of these snakes of copper tubing that was flexible, and then he drilled holes in it, and then we just placed it on the ground, so everything's on fire.
This mission is a quick in and out. Command deems the information.
Look at the explosion there. Boom! It's like none of that shit's there. All this is practical. This is practical. That is not. All this in the background, that's all CG.
Just to clarify there, Shane, rather than filming that in a big studio with a green screen, you actually filmed on location and then you rotoscoped out the backgrounds?
Correct. Yes. It is the ultimate in regards to the best way to do VFX. It costs more money because you are rotoscoping it, but to me, it looks like a real environment. The blue environment, you're dealing with contamination, or green, you're dealing with all that. You're dealing with trying to make it look like day exterior inside, which never looks good. It always looks fake. It's very hard to do because light comes from everywhere. This was literally out in the middle of the New Mexico desert, and we rotoscoped everything.
Yeah, look, it makes a huge difference. It just feels so visceral to just, like, I'm thinking of it from the perspective of a person who is physically there. You were literally right there in the dirt, and it would create a different emotional environment, I imagine, too, for the authenticity of performances for the actors. If they're immersed in this world and there's like physical dirt and there's the actual sun, it would be a different feeling to just being in a green room of green screens.
It's real.
You know, it's a real environment, and the cork that's raining down on them is hitting them, and it's bouncing off of them, all the debris. And then I had the special effects team created lawnmower foggers, and my whole vision of this end of days, after the bombs went off, is that the whole earth was constantly smoking. Okay, so I laid smoke in everywhere. And this whole thing was done by these gators, which are like these 6-wheel drive, like souped up golf carts. There were 4 of them, and each one had a lawnmower fogger in the back, and they would just run these things all over the place, and then we'd wait for the wind to kind of settle and get the perfect volume, and then we would go. And then, he had all those explosions on triggers, propane poppers, all this stuff. So now let's take, I think the helicopter shot that you were thinking about is this oneer that is literally 6 hookups. So it's one shot that we're using either split screens or matched action to be able to feel like it's a oneer. But it was actually 6 different shots in 6 different environments. So let me share the screen. So you just saw John Connor jump down into that hole, right? And now he's gotten the intel out of the Skynet facility, and now he's coming up. And the reason he's coming up is because they can't get any radio comm to anyone topside.
Olsen, something's wrong up here.
Again, handheld to really create that emotion. There goes a hunter killer. He jumps into the helicopter. Pushes the guy, he's been killed. Oh shit. All right, I'm gonna hop in this chopper. Now we're gonna take off. He's going after that spaceship.
Connor, we're trying to get topside.
Now we're upside down. Now we right ourselves. And now we go over the shoulder to the mushroom cloud. All his friends just dead.
Such a fantastic clip. Absolutely love it. It's really great to see the sort of the cross-pollination of ideas that you've got from the different films, because the use of that handheld shaky camera, like in his face. When you look at Fathers and Daughters and you had that handheld shaky camera, and then you've got Christian Bale in Terminator, then the handheld shaking camera, you can see why that would be a tactical choice for the filmmakers to convey that sense of urgency and the sort of the tension and the fear in their faces. Would you mind talking us through the process of how do you reconcile getting a beautiful, authentic performance when there's just so much stuff going on, like on set, and you're dealing with exploding helicopters and nuclear bombs and killer robots, and yet it ultimately still comes back to having to get a beautiful emotional performance. How does that not all get lost in the mix?
Yeah, I think the best thing is, again, really good prep on this, being able to, take the actors through the sequence, knowing where the bombs and fire and everything were, so they knew what to expect. And you see how in the beginning it goes very smooth. Even the tracking bomb POV to exploding to then, all that is smooth camera. And even when we're running with them, when they jump down into the hole, all smooth camera. But then when they get down inside the complex, it's all kind of handheld. It's kind of creating that kind of uncomfortableness of like what's lurking around every corner. And they go in water and they're down in these tunnels and just their flashlights are illuminating everything. And then when he comes up topside, it's like we want to continue that handheld because there's something wrong. The reason they're not giving, comms topside is because the Terminators have killed them all, and now they're taking off and getting the hell out of there. So he's trying to track them. So when you go through a sequence like this, McG designed the beginning sequence, this helicopter sequence, and the 7-Eleven escape. Those three we pre-vised. So we pre-vised. I had 4 teams working around the clock, basically creating a video game with all the exact lenses and everything that we would use to be able to do that. And then they built all the VFX and the sequencing off of these previs. And that's what really generated the ability to be so seamless, specifically in all the hookups, right? Because we're talking about several hookups here. He comes out, this is the area that he jumped into that hole. So he's coming out of the hole. So that whole set, all the rocks and everything that we saw when he jumped in, that's the first shot. The second shot is the whip pan. That's a hookup. Now I'm in the parking lot of New Mexico Studios, and I've laid all this sand and dirt out, okay? So I've literally taken the parking lot that's like 600 by 900 and completely laid tons of sand and all this scrub grass to match the environment. Now we're on a techno crane. So we've whipped and now we became a techno crane. But I gave this shake to it. So I was using a shaker box to be able to create it so it felt like handheld.
The aircraft, I'm in pursuit. They're human Prisoners aboard that thing! Get after it!
Still on the techno crane. Now, the helicopter doesn't have any blades. It's on this gimbal, and it's being held from above. So when he gets in, we actually lift the helicopter up in the air on this gimbal. And then what I did above is I had this bounce source that was doing this in the air with making shadows, so it felt like it was coming through the blades of the chopper, right? So it felt like they were propeller blades, props there. So now we're pushing in on the techno crane, and now we start to lift off. We start to boom up with the techno crane, and he starts to, move the gimbal like that. Looks like he's flying. Looks like we're attached to him. Bomb goes off. Now we're spinning. So now the gimbal is now spinning around like this, and I'm on the techno crane elevated, and the minute that tail comes around, I'm gonna shoot in. I see John Connor right here. I see him look, and with the look, that's what draws us into the cabin. Now I'm handheld. So we used the split screen right here of this to create the seam. So I'm taking a split screen from the techno coming in, and then I had my handheld operator do the same thing. He walked in and then wrapped around into the helicopter. So now we're handheld. Now he's pulling back. Now that right there is another hookup. So this is, we literally took the fuselage of the chopper, we put it on a pendulum. Again, see, the whole deal with this is trying to do stuff for real. It's not trying to make the damn thing be CGI and just put him in a blue or green world. He's inside this thing, actually a stunt man, and we have this on a pendulum. So we let the pendulum swing, and then boom, it unlocks, and then the fuselage goes flying through the air, hits the ground, and starts tumbling with the stuntman in it. And now that dust that you saw right there, this dust is what marries the next hookup. Now we're with Christian Bale. Stuntman's gone. And now I took an Arri 2C, which is a very small camera. And it had a dolphin mag on it, so it was very streamlined. And I started, Chris Mosley, my operator, started with it upside down. And then as he gets up, he does this with his hands and literally writes the shot and continues to pull out handheld. And this is the final shot. So this is the last hookup where we now rotate. Now we're right side up. Chris walks out with him. He's like on his knees moving. We see the mushroom cloud. Now Chris wraps around him, and then the Terminator attacks him. So there you have it.
I love it. So a couple of the things that you mentioned earlier, you mentioned the fog, the happy accident of the fog in Casa Tutti Bene and the condom wrapper in Fathers and Daughters. My question is, when you're doing something on such a large scale with extensive VFX and previs, is there any room for happy accidents?
Oh, of course. I mean, that was a happy accident that he threw the condom on and it stuck to her.
In Terminator, for example, when you've got so much going on and it feels like everything is is if you're doing pre-viz and then you're getting there and it's a matter of trying to execute what's been pre-planned. Were there any examples of moments when something just happened and you're like, oh wow, I didn't expect that, or just an explosion happening in a very curious place that you hadn't thought of, and like, oh, that's weird, but let's go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were those serendipity kind of like moments all the time in this film, because you're working with so many departments to bring the film, the visual landscape. You got VFX that's exploding. I mean, special effects that's exploding. We got smoke. We got cork, we got dirt, we got dust. We have the VFX element that we can't ever see, we're just envisioning it, what it's going to be. It's just like, how do you know how much to tilt up to be able to get the mushroom cloud, It's like, and I think one of the great moments in this sequence that I had no idea how well it was going to work was the techno crane swinging around with the tail and ripping in there to go inside. And you feel like you're so immersed in that crash that, and then to be upside down and right yourself, it's like, these are like those, it's like an onion. You're just peeling these layers off that we're like, oh my God, what is he going to do now? He just exploded it. Now we're upside down. Oh, now we're righting ourselves, and it's like these shots, for as complicated as you see them being, it was lightning pace that we were shooting this stuff. I mean, with the spinning helicopter, this is things that I could not believe that at that moment we decided to change everything. So this is exactly that moment. So a helicopter does not auto-rotate clockwise. It auto-rotates anti-clock. Well, we built the shot and the previs to operate clockwise. The whole shot. And then on the day, we had the helicopter pilot there, which I wish he had not been there, because he said, why are you spinning to the, clockwise? Helicopters go anti-clock when they're auto-rotating. Because the way I was going to go into the fuselage was so much more elegant if it was going clockwise. But because it was going anti-clock, it was sending the tail out. So I had to be so far back with the techno crane so the tail could go around, that then required me to do this massive move, where before, as it rotated, I just rotated right into the fuselage.
Yeah. The big move worked. It
literally on the day we changed everything. And I was like, Mick G, you gotta be freaking kidding me, And so because of that, I wanted it to be seamless like what we had envisioned. And it felt forced that I was having to move so quickly into the fuselage. So what I was trying to do is get the techno crane so close to the back end of that helicopter, so my approach was not so long, right? Well, we did take two. That thing spun around. I had that camera so close that it sheared the whole mega mount right off the techno crane, destroyed the camera. It all came crashing down on the ground. And it's like, all right, next camera, boot it back up, get me another head, and let's go.
Well, look, I'm really happy to hear that whether it be a large budget or a small budget, sometimes you just have to pivot really quickly. And it means that the students who are currently working on films, and then they're like, okay, let's do the shot. Oh, it's raining, right? What do we do now? That's just something that if you're working on a $200 million budget or a $2 budget, you still have to do. Yep. And that agility, I think that's a nice segue, talking about the agility of the a DSLR that you used on a film called Act of Valor, the 5D Mark II. Would you mind talking through us a little bit about how you see the differences in filming with a tiny camera that is arguably one of the more revolutionary cameras in terms of indie filmmaking, the Canon 5D Mark II, versus using a big 35 millimeter or a $150,000 Arri Alexa?
Yeah, so you're not in the mass moving business anymore, right? You're going from, at that point, film was still very relevant, right? This was where we were finally starting to push the digital element in 2009, right? So Arri had come out with that. I can't remember, but it was a Arri digital camera that, and then we had the Panavision digital camera. So there wasn't a lot of, and we had the Sony F950 at the time. So there wasn't a lot of cinematic looking cameras out there, actually. You had the Thompson Grass Valley, Viper. There was the early ages of digital were not so great. But when I saw the Canon 5D, I was like, my God, this is great. I don't have to do anything to this thing. It's just laying in cinematic with its shallow depth of field and everything that we always wanted from a video camera, but we were always dealing in third side chips or 2/3 side chips, which just don't have the depth of field because the sensor is so small. So now I'm taking a camera that's only 2.5 pounds instead of 50 or 60. So the way the camera moves, where you can embed the camera, how you can mount the camera onto helmets, how you can mount it onto the gun, how you can immerse an audience in point of views that no one has really ever seen before. Because to do it would cost so much money to knock out doors and walls and cars and bucks and all this stuff, to be able to get these angles. We're not cutting cars up. We're just sticking the damn thing down in the floorboards and you got the rocking shot. Well, if you put a Panavision film camera down there, you're not doing it without cutting the car apart. And so the DSLR was I felt like the weight of the world was lifted off of me as a filmmaker because I saw the power of this platform. And because, we spearheaded this thing and really, innovated this technology and something that could then accept Panavision lenses, like what I did with all my Canon 5Ds. I had Panavision make mounts so I could put the Panavision lenses on them. And when that happened, it was a game changer for that camera because now you had a $25,000, $30,000 piece of glass on a $2,500 camera. And the way that it resolved was so much better than a still lens. The way it threw focus, it didn't zoom when you racked focus. It was cinema. So now we're taking something that's got a great still photography feel, and now we're turning it into a movie making machine. And that to me was the essence of that. And as a director of photography, you are asked to do a lot of stuff. And on this film, I was told my parameters. Shane, we want to do an action picture. We're going to do it with real Navy SEALs. It's not a documentary. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay. We're going to have these real Navy SEALs act. I'm like, whoa, all right. We're going to go on these training missions all over the world. And we're going to write a narrative script based on the training missions that the Navy SEALs are doing for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, for us to be able to take advantage of all this military hardware, you can only have 10 people on your crew. So I looked at myself as a cinematographer and said, how can I pull this off with a film crew, a film team, film cameras? I can't do that with 10 people. I can't shoot on these billion-dollar assets with just 10 people. So I started to really show the directors, Scotty Waugh and Mike McCoy, the Canon 5D and what it could do. And I actually shot a little marketing piece for Terminator Salvation with the Canon 5D where it was all a helmet cam. And it was like the Resistance was talking to the helmet cam. So it was like found footage of them trying to hold off the Terminators, and they eventually took over their bunker and killed everyone. But everything was done with explosions and everything like you saw in Terminator, but it was done with the 5D. And when they saw that, they were like, I've never felt so immersed in a movie ever. I want you to bring that to Act of Valor. And I said, okay, no problem, but everyone is going to have to operate camera. And they're like, wait, what? I said, the producer, both directors, all my ACs are going to have to operate. All my loaders are going to have to operate. Everyone's going to have to operate. Because for us to be able to pull off these massive action sequences, we just can't shoot it with one camera. So we would literally attack action sequences with 6 or 7 people. And so I set everyone into boot camp. So all of my, the directors, the producer, and the ACs and loaders were all sent into my DSLR boot camp. We told them how to operate, how to set the settings. We designed handheld devices that were super heavy, so it made the image more, not so herky-jerky. So, I was putting like 15 pounds of weight on the back of my camera to be able to weight it, so it didn't feel so rocky. And then we literally innovated a platform around making this movie. So this is the type of stuff as a cinematographer, you have to adapt to what the script says, to what the production is going to be able to get assets on, what the size of the crew is. We had carte blanche. We could be anywhere on all of these places because we were so small. We didn't have to shut down their operations. We just let them go. And it was so, like I said, it was so awe-inspiring from a cameraman that had just gone from shooting a $200 million blockbuster, a Terminator Salvation, and this was under $8 million.
Yeah.
And it was shot over 2.5 years. So that nimbleness to the camera and the innovation through Panavision lenses and all that stuff is what enabled us to really take that story to a whole other level.
I love hearing these sort of stories, Shane, because ultimately I think cameras are only just going to get smaller, and if people just become a little bit obsessed with gear, then they kind of miss out on learning what's really important. We keep going back to emotion. And I know that any person who's aspiring to be a filmmaker can kind of get a little bit bogged down getting obsessed with the latest camera, the latest lens, the latest equipment. But ultimately, if they can get their hands on something, and if that be a phone or a Canon 5D Mark II, they can still tell stories. And ultimately, that's what I want my students to learn, which is that it's not about the gear, it's about the person behind the camera who is, and the knowledge of that person and an understanding of the elements and principles of storytelling and composition and emotion and color theory. All of these can come together, and if you're just using a phone or a DSLR, you can still really immerse people. What I'd love to do now is maybe if we could have a little bit of a look at one of the clips from Act of Valor. Perhaps you can talk us through a little bit, and then we'll get a bit of a feel for what you came up with over those 2 years in the jungle.
Here we go.
Roger, Whiplash. What is your ETA to my pause?
ETA 20 mics. Be advised, Raven is in flight and pushing to your location.
All right, so What we have here is we have a CIA agent that has been captured. And the SEAL team has been brought in to try and extract her. And they're in Costa Rica in this kind of flop house. And, you know, immediately you're getting into POVs, right? So this was so much fun because I'm just whipping out a 600 mil, you know, Canon still lens and, you know, snapping that onto my 5D. I'm not using a Panavision lens at that point and gunning in to get like those POV shots that we just saw. So they're going to torture this woman. So they've already beat the hell out of her.
Por favor, ya. No puedo más.
Hey, sir, we gotta go. Roger, take it out. I feel like we're pretty thin. I'd like to take you guys with us. Chief, I got SBT coming up on step. I got a Raven pushing my paws. Wyman and I are in good overwatch position, and I got to keep reporting back to Blackbeard, Maine. We're staying here. Roger that.
So this is all DSLR.
Keep it tight.
Got it. He's their sniper.
Whiplash, this is Blackbeard. Assault forces moving to the target early. Request immediate fire support.
Blackbeard is Whiplash, good copy. Request fire support, pushing to your location at 15 mics.
Again, this was long lens 300 mil and then the wide shot 21 mil on the Panavision. But again, being with them, the immersiveness.
Whiplash, this is Blackbeard. I have positive control of the Raven.
He's waiting for... Watch this shot. I love this. Again, DSLR underwater housing. And catches him. Now the helmet cam, getting that immersion. So we're going inside the mind of the SEAL.
Chief, are you set?
Take him.
Chief, hold. 1 o'clock, base of the tower. Got him. You're clear to the door.
Look at how it moves. I just love that. And that's me handheld with a 27 mil on my, handheld Panavision setup. Again, same there.
¿Y qué le pasó a los tamales?
They're like a ballet. That's what I wanted to really get with this helmet cam, is just to see how smooth and the way they check everything and how they move around. It's completely like a ballet of dance. Squeezes his shoulder. That tells him to go down the hallway.
I got 2 squares coming out the back door. Wyoming, 11 o'clock, driver's side truck. Got him.
Look, that's so inspiring. I absolutely love seeing a movie that looks so good that was shot on a camera that you can buy for a couple of grand, and that was even just 10 years ago. I can't imagine a single person going into the audience, going into the cinema, and a regular audience member who knew nothing about film, going and watching that movie, and none of them would go, "Oh, it was all right, but the camera work was a bit funny." Everyone would have been immersed, and they would never have even questioned it for a second. The fact that the cost of that thing was probably about 1% of what you'd typically spend. So I'm really inspired to also hear just how you can still be forced to be nimble and adapt and overcome all of these issues. And the fact that it's so agile with these small cameras and crews of 10 people. It's an absolute delight to hear that there'd be a production assistant has to do the clapper and then jump out there with the camera and learn.
Exactly.
I think it's really important. I think it's really important for all students. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time and effort, and I'm going to just have all these ideas buzzing through my head, and I'm feeling inspired myself. So thank you very much, Shane, and hopefully we can do this again.
Thank you so much, Stuart. I so appreciate this whole forum and everything to be able to share back and forth. And I appreciate so much your guidance on this as well, because you really put me in the right headspace to really do like a 30-year brain dump.
Awesome. Well, thanks heaps, Shane. Look, let's stay in touch on behalf of me and all the team and all the students. Best of luck for your next productions, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Stuart.